Shalom Israel, you live with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, Priest and Captain Soccer War, holding down a class live from Memphis, Tennessee. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have classes here in Memphis from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. The address to the school is 3000 Walnut Grove Road, Suite 215. Again, 3000 Walnut Grove Road, Suite 215. You brothers and sisters tuning in, have family, loved ones, people you care about in the Memphis, Tennessee, and surrounding areas, get them in contact with the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. Since 1969, we have been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans The truth is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And in the year 2023, there's nothing more important than for God's chosen people to find out the truth of who we are, where we're from, and what our purpose is here on the earth. And that is what these classes with the ISUPK allows us to do. It gives us the opportunity to go into this book called the Bible, to gain the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of who the Most High has called us to be, so that in these days and times we can return back to our righteous position of authority and leadership on this earth. All right. What I like to do with these classes is give brothers and sisters an opportunity to ask any questions at the beginning or anytime during the class. If you have a question, all you have to do is just raise your hand if you're in the classroom. If you're online, all you have to do is type it in. All right. Any and all questions are welcomed and appreciated. You never know how something that you may be pondering or wondering could help lead to enlightening another brother or sister. So always feel free to ask your questions. All right. With that said, the topic of tonight's class is going to be the Bible is Black History. Again, the topic of tonight's class is going to be the Bible is Black History. Why is that important? Because we currently find ourselves in what they call Black History Month. And last night we spent a good deal of time discussing living in the age of deception and all of the various methods and the lengths that your oppressor is willing to go to keep you confused and to keep you not knowing the truth, not knowing the truth of who you are, not knowing the truth about God, not knowing the truth about history, not knowing the truth about the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing the truth about righteousness and wickedness and the roles that all of these forces play in our lives. And part of that deception is the aggressive, purposeful, um, trouble that your oppressor has gone through to keep us from knowing who we are, keep us from knowing the truth about where we come from, knowing the truth about the Bible. There's a reason why so many religions have been concocted and claim to take credit from the Bible. There's a reason why there's a Christianity that started out with Catholicism, and then there were so many schisms and breakups in the Catholic Church that you had the formation of various different Christian religions. You have, the Protestant Church, and you have the what's some more? The Methodist Church. You have the Episcopalian Church, and you have the Evangelical Church. There's so many different divisions in the religion of Christianity because all of those various branches are different rabbit holes for you to travel down and get lost in, so that you never arrive at the truth of who the Bible is for, what it is about, and how attainable the standard that God has established is for us today. But that is what we focus on here in the Israelite School of UPK. We focus on teaching the Bible, not from a religious perspective, but from a historical and a cultural perspective. And when you begin to not look at the Bible through a religious veil, a lot of what you read in the Bible makes complete and total sense. The Bible is only confusing and doesn't make sense when you're trying to fit what you're reading into the mold of Christianity. And Christianity was designed to absolutely continue to keep you confused and to further drive you away from God because of how frustrating it is to try and take what you're reading and make it fit into the lie that you've been taught. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. The Bible is Black history. We're going to show you that the history of the people who are in here in America today goes far beyond encountering your oppressor 400 years ago. All right. Now, see, we have a question in the class. from Dakaya. We're gonna go ahead and get that first. Bear with me. Okay, so here we go. He asked in Matthew 22 and 20, why did Christ say he hopes we don't have to travel on the Sabbath? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get it. Matthew chapter 22 and verse 20. All right. You show us Matthew 22 and 20? We got get with me, Dakaya, because this scripture is not what you asked about. Salaki. Matthew 22 and 20 is not the scripture that doesn't fit the question you asked. You gotta help me out. Okay, he says Salaki in Matthew 24 and 20. All right, that makes more sense. Let's go ahead and get Matthew chapter 24, verse 20. Matthew chapter 24, verse 20. Okay. Okay, let me go ahead and drop back down. In order to break this down for you, Dakaya, we got to drop down to Matthew 24 and 14. All right. All right. All right. So this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 14, where Christ is explaining the conditions that are going to exist on the earth before the time of our kingdom being established. All right. And we all know that the time of our kingdom being established is what what people the religious people who read the Bible refer to as the end of the world or Armageddon or Judgment Day, whatever various forms that they like to use to describe the coming of Christ's kingdom or the destruction of this present world, right? This is what Christ is describing in Matthew 24th chapter. He's describing the end of this time and the beginning of our rulership on the earth, the beginning of the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of God, all right? Matthew 24 and 14 says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So what does that mean? ISUPK gonna have schools in every country all across the earth, and it's going to be taught the truth of the Bible and what's going to happen when Christ returns. Now, there's a lot of people. I don't mean to sidebar, but what bothers me often is bumping into people who have heard of Hebrew Israelites or who have encountered Hebrew Israelites that are not in the ISUPK. And they try to tell me that they know what Israelites believe. They say, yeah, y'all believe that only black people are going to heaven. And if you're not black, then you're going to hell. That is not anything we teach at ISUPK. And that is not anything that is said in the Bible. We don't teach that only black people are going to heaven, and we don't teach that every other race is going to hell. You understand? There's a reason why the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge stands alone. And we are not affiliated or associated with any Hebrew Israelite group or anyone who claims to be an Hebrew Israelite. If they are not in the ISUPK under Commander General Yohanan, then they are not in the truth. Because there's so many lies and rumors and misinformation that is out there because of people who don't know the truth. You understand? But it bothers me to run into someone who says that we believe only black people are going to heaven. But that's just not true. All nations are going to enter into the kingdom of heaven. But not everyone is going to be on the same level or have the same status in the kingdom of heaven. That is what we teach. Heaven and hell are not places that you go to when you die. It's not somewhere under the ground where there's fire and pitchforks. Heaven isn't some place you float up to in the clouds, you understand, when everybody has wings on. That is never been taught in here. That is not what the Bible says concerning heaven and hell. Here Christ is saying that this word is going to be preached in all nations, in all countries. Everybody is going to hear the truth. Why would we be in all nations teaching the truth if only black people were going to go to heaven? If it was only important for black people to hear this word. The Bible states that there are children of Israel scattered to the four corners of the earth among all nations. So what does that mean? There's Israelites over there in Korea. There's Israelites in China. There's Israelites in Indonesia. There's Israelites in the Fiji Islands. There's Israelites everywhere. And so in order to be able to find those Israelites, guess what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to teach the word, going to have to go out in all those places. Right now, the internet is making it easy for that to happen. Because I'm sitting here in Memphis, Tennessee. This class is being broadcast all across the four corners of the earth. But this is something that Christ said must come to pass before the end shall come. Verse 15, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let him which be in Judea flee into the mountains. What was the abomination of desolation that was spoken of by Daniel the prophet? The abomination of desolation was heathens in our king in the city of Jerusalem, in the temple of Solomon, sacrificing pigs on the altar. That was the abomination of desolation. During the days of Christ, Christ lived after the time of the Maccabees. So in Christ's time, the temple had been rebuilt. The altar had been reestablished. There were sacrifices going on in the house that Solomon built the way that they were supposed to. And Christ was saying, if you see the abomination of desolation come after me, then you know to flee into Judea. Know that the end has come. That Israel as a kingdom is no more. You understand? Verse 17, let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Meaning what? If you on the roof and you see it coming, you got to leave. You ain't going to have time to pack up. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take clothes. If you out in the field working, you cannot run back to go get your clothes. You got to just flee. And woe unto them that are with child and to them that give suck in those days. In the day that you're going to have to flee, it's going to be sad if you're pregnant. Or it's going to be sad if you have a child who is still drinking from the mother's breast. Why? Because that is a child that can't walk. That's a child that can't be reasoned with. It's a baby. And it's going to be sad. It's going to be destruction for you in that day because guess what? You are not going to get away with that pregnant belly. You are not going to get away with that child suckling on your breast. Verse 20. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Pray that you don't have to escape in the middle of the winter, and pray you don't have to escape on the Sabbath day. Why? Because on the Sabbath day was the day when everyone was relaxing. No one was, prepared to have to run or have to flee. The Sabbath day was the day of rest. He said, man, I pray you don't have to flee on the Sabbath day. Everybody understands. That's what he's talking about, Dr. Y'all. Let me go ahead and finish reading. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Everybody understands? Keep reading. Verse 23, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Everybody understands. This was Christ's warning to his disciples concerning the days of the destruction of Jerusalem and the times that will follow. Also, it's also speaking of the time before he would return. Everybody understands. So that great destruction he speaks of is the destruction that we're going to encounter before Christ returns. All right. But the woe to them who have child in those days and give suck was particularly speaking about the abomination of desolation that Daniel warned about. All right. Let me know if that answered your question, Dr. Yah. And we can drop off of that. And let's just go ahead and get into a little bit of this of the Bible as Black history, all right? Now, here in America, the month of February has been coined Black History Month. And they gave Black people um, February being the shortest month of the year to be sort of a celebration of Black history, right? But growing up, and even to this day, Black history, quote unquote, is only encompasses what has occurred among our people from the time that we came to America and were put in captivity. You understand? So Black history is actually Slave History Month. Or maybe it's properly coined Black History Month because the people of Black have only existed as long as we've been in America. Black is not a nationality. Black is not a racial identity. Black is not an ethnicity. Black is a title that has been given to the people who have been stripped and robbed of their heritage and their culture. And the beautiful thing about the truth is that the truth clears up all of the coincidences that exist concerning the knowledge that is missing when it comes to not the knowledge, but the real life identification of the people who the Bible speaks of, right? So let's say you're somebody who looks at the Bible as a religious person. You're religious and you look at the Bible from a religious view. Well, in the religion of Christianity, they teach you about Moses and about the 12 tribes of Israel and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the Old Testament, right? And even in church, there's such an emphasis placed on this family who God chose because that is what the Bible focuses on. But across all of your religions, your Christianity, your Judaism, your Islam, they all subscribe to the Bible in the Old Testament, and they all recognize the existence of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the 12 tribes, and Moses, and Daniel and Ezekiel, and all these prophets. But go ask a Jewish person, where are the 12 tribes of Israel? They're gonna tell you they don't know. People who call themselves Jews are supposed to be from the tribe of Judah. Well, where the other 11 tribes at? I don't know. Go ask a Muslim about, I know you say Muhammad comes from Ishmael, right? And Ishmael and Israel were brothers. Well, we know Ishmael is all you Arab nations, all you Arab people, right? And they'll say, yes, we're Ishmael. Well, where the 12 tribes at? Oh no, we don't know. You go ask Christians. Well, Jesus Christ came from the tribe of Judah, right? He's from the blood of Judah, and there's 12 tribes of Israel in the New Testament and the Old Testament. The New Testament, in the book of Revelations, it says that on the gates of the kingdom of heaven are going to be the 12 names of the 12 tribes. Where are these 12 tribes? Where are these people? And the Christians will tell you, well, we don't know. That's a mystery. So everyone who believes in the Bible knows that there's a family of 12 tribes that existed. And they'll ask you ask them, well, who are these people? Where they at? They'll say they don't know. So nobody knows where these 11 tribes are. Nobody knows where this chosen family of God has disappeared to. Then you take that and you go and look across the earth. Go and look at all of the countries and all of the ethnic groups and all the civilizations, and go ask those people in all these different places about their history. You go to Africa, go to the most remote jungle in Africa where they are putting doo-doo on their face and taking piss baths under the cow, and they'll tell you, yeah, we've been taking these doo-doo baths and these piss baths for 40,000 years. They got tribes in West Africa called the Dogon tribe. They'll tell you, yeah, our ancestors came from the stars up there. Yeah, we came from the tribe, the Pleiades star system. And they got all of this amazing knowledge and history about the stars in the sky. You go to Asia, they'll tell you all about the history of the Chinese people and the year of the dragon and the rabbit and how far back it goes. 40,000 years they've been living in the mountains over there in China. You go to some island off of in the Pacific Ocean somewhere. You go to the Samoan Islands, and they'll tell you, yeah, our people came here on boats, and we're strong and mighty. Everybody knows their history. Everybody knows their culture. Everybody knows what gods they worshiped, what language they spoke. Who are the people on the earth who don't know those answers? Who are the people on the earth? If you ask them, Yeah, what were your ancestors doing 10,000 years ago? I don't know. Who are the people on the earth? You gonna ask them, well, what language did your ancestors speak before you encountered the white man? I don't know. So on one hand, all the religious people on the earth know that there are people who existed who were great in the earth, and now nobody knows where they are. At the same time, everybody on the earth knows their history and knows who they are. So guess what? We know who isn't the 12 tribes. We know who aren't the lost people. And then we have this one group, these three groups of people, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, who have no idea who they are, where they come from, what their culture was prior to meeting white people. Is that just a coincidence? Or maybe there's people who the Bible speaks about that we can't find are the same people on the earth who don't know who the hell they are. This is a uniquely Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian phenomenon. Nowhere else on the earth does anybody not know who they are. We're the only people you can't go watch a documentary about, and they tell you, yeah, man, this is what they was doing, and this is where they came from, and this is who their gods were, and this is what they worship. It's all just speculation. Then the white man tell you that when they came over here to the Americas, come on, man, we in Memphis, Tennessee. These people had mound cities that they built out of the earth all across the Midwest, all across the Mississippi. You drive through some of these cities in the Midwest and you see these great big hills that exist where houses, they're now lined up with houses. But you say to yourself, well, damn, what was this like before white people came here? How did this part of the city just become so hilly? And so you got so many giant hills and twists and turns that the white man just came and just built houses here. Why would he build houses here? And if we're supposed to believe that the Native Indians lived in teepees and lived in the middle of the woods and they didn't have any type of way of, clearing out the land and building architecture, you mean to tell me they was just living in the hills? Why would somebody choose to just live in the hills right here? The white man is lying to you about everything concerning your history and your advancement in the earth. Because they want to try and keep you from understanding that everything the Bible says about the children of Israel applies to you. You understand? And that is the great deception that has been played not only on you, but on the whole earth. Meaning, it's on the surface, it's a deception that's designed to make sure you don't know who you are. But also, they've gotten the entire world in line with it because the entire world knows that you are those people, but no one will tell you. No one will let you know. Why? Because finding out who we are and finding out that we are those people threatens the very fabric of how everyone else is living and existing on the earth. And the Bible tells us that. You understand? So let's go ahead and get into some of these scriptures concerning Black history being in the Bible. All right. First scripture we're gonna get to. Let's go. Let me get to the deception. All right. Let's get Psalms chapter 83. Psalms chapter 83, verse 4. Matter of fact, it's Psalms chapter 83. We'll start at verse 1. We'll read down. This is a scripture concerning the effort that all of our enemies have taken to make sure that we don't know who we are. And if you don't believe that there's been a concerted effort, all you got to do is just look at all the nations of the earth. You mean to tell me nobody knows who we are? Nobody knows where the 12 tribes of Israel disappeared to? There's no records written. There's no history covered. There's no mention of them throughout the process of time. We know where the Greeks are. We know where you go to Greece, all of the archaeology is destroyed. There ain't nothing but goddamn skeletons of those buildings over there. But we know all of their great history and their culture. We know where them people at, even though ancient times they got destroyed and murdered and killed, and their old monuments, exist in desert lands now. But we know where they at. The damn, again, the Chinese, the Japanese, all the wars that's been fought, all of the Mongolian conquering and all of the subjugation of the Chinese and the building of the Great Wall of China and the World War II and the Jews put in the ovens. We know about all of that. But don't nobody know what these 11 tribes are. Yeah, that's a head scratcher, man. We can't find no mention of them anywhere. Bull BS. You understand? It's a concerted effort by your oppressor and all of the other families on the earth to stop you from knowing who you are, and the Bible records it. Psalms chapter 83, verse 1 says, "Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh," or the Most High. "Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult." What is a tumult? Let's look that word up. The enemies of God have made a tumult. What is a tumult? Tumult. A tumult is a disorderly agitation or milling about of a crowd, usually with uproar and confusion of voices. The synonym it uses is a commotion. Second context is a turbulent uprising or a riot. So Psalms 83 is saying, lo, meaning look, the enemies of God have begun to riot. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They that hate God have lifted up their heads. Meaning what? They are proud in defying God. Verse 3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted together against thy hidden ones. What does it mean to take crafty counsel? It means to have a meeting. To have a meeting and to sit down and negotiate and to come to terms with an agreement. That is a crafty counsel. But this counsel is done in private. This counsel is done out of the sight of the public and the mainstream. And consulted against thy hidden ones. What was the purpose of this crafty counsel? To consult against thy hidden ones. Who are the hidden ones? The people of God, the people who the Most High have chosen and has shadowed under his wing, the ones who he has hid from the world. Now, what was said in this crafty counsel? What was the point of this crafty counsel? They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. This crafty counsel was about how do we destroy this nation? How do we cut these people off from being great and mighty and strong and powerful? This is how do we make these 12 tribes disappear? That is literally what the Bible is talking about. That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. How do we wipe the name of Israel from history? How do we make it so that this people who has existed on the earth and has been great no longer exists? That was what the crafty counsel was about. Now, who was present for this crafty counsel? Who was there for this meeting? Let's keep reading. For they have consulted together with one consent, meaning they have agreed. They have all agreed to this one thing, which is to make sure that these 12 tribes no longer exist. To make sure that the name of Israel is no longer in remembrance. That's why you can't find it in the history book. That's why you can't find the history of what happened to those people after they fled Jerusalem in 90 AD. That's why you can't find the history of where did they go next? Now you can go and you can find it. You can scrounge up the information. You can piece together resources from this place and from that place. You can take the witness of this guy in history and this guy in history and say, okay, well, they were there, then they were here. But it's not something you can go take a class on. You can't go take a class on the whereabouts of the 12 tribes of Israel. You can't find that in no being taught by no professors in no scholastic university anywhere on the earth. That's an endeavor that you have to take on yourself to have to try and find and piece together. They are confederate against thee. Verse 6. The tabernacles of Edom. Who are the tabernacles of Edom? The houses of Edom. Who is Edom? Edom is who we know today as the Caucasian. And there's ample evidence, historically, scholarly, that proves this point. There are many different places you can go where it is proven and the tie is established, connection established between Esau or Edom and the Caucasian race. That is not something that we made up in the ISUPK. That is something that has been being taught on the earth for hundreds of years. It's been a well-known fact. And the Ishmaelites. Who are the Ishmaelites? We know it. The Arabs today tell you that they are Ishmael. They descend from Ishmael. So that's your Arab nations. Of Moab. Who's Moab? Moab is the so-called Chinese, the East Asians. And history will tell you that the East Asians were referred to as Moabites. And the Hagarenes. Who are the Hagarenes? They are another tribe of Africans. Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines and the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah. This is talking about all these other nations. The Japanese, Amalek is the so-called Jewish man. The Philistines are a tribe of Africans. The inhabitants of Tyre were all of those, all of those nations who border the Mediterranean. These are all the nations that are on the earth today. All of these nations came together and said, we're going to cut off the 12 tribes of Israel from being a nation so that their name may no more be in remembrance. Everybody understands? That is why you were hard pressed to find any information concerning the identity of the 12 tribes of Israel, because the Bible tells us that a concerted effort was made to cut this people off. Now, let me ask y'all this. Where is the one place today that all races on the earth have access to except for the children of God? There is still a crafty council that is taking place today. There is still a place where all nations are confederate and come together with one consent. And the only people who are not present or represented are so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Can anybody tell me where that is today? Where is it that Psalms 83 is still taking place? Because there is a place on earth where everybody is represented. Everybody is cared for and looked after. If there's a natural disaster or if there's some type of humanitarian crisis, this place where all nations have gathered will go and look out for those people. But there's one group of people who do not have any representation in this place, and they don't have access to the love and the support of the human family. Yagawab said America. No, not America, Yagawab. It's not America. There is a place where all the races of the earth meet today. And the only people who are not present are blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Sister Shawba.
Is it like the United Nations?
It is exactly the United Nations. The United Nations is a panel where some representative from every race on earth is there. Even the tiny countries you never heard of, Djibouti, or, there's a place called Djibouti in the earth. You understand? The goddamn Samoan Islands, there's representation in the UN. The island off the Madagascar is represented in the United Nations. You know who's never ever sat in the United Nations seat? A nigger. There's never been one nigger that ever stepped foot in even the United Nations building. Nigger, what are you doing here? There's nothing for you here in this United Nations. This is the coming together of all the peoples on the earth to fight you. That's why you have no representation in the United Nations. Now, how is that? How is it possible that there's a place where everybody comes together to share in the common understanding of humanity and the love for humanity and the humanitarian crisis? And hell, they talk about China oppressing Tibet. Free Tibet, free Tibet. They talk about when it was going on when I was a kid, the whole Rwanda shit, where the Hutus and the Tutsis is fighting. We got to stop the Hutus from killing the Tutsis. The United Nations stepped in. You know where the United Nations never speaks about? Niggas in America. Hispanics, all the goddamn humanitarian crisis going on in South America right now. These drug dealers and these drug wars and these people getting on trains and walking thousands of miles to come to the American border. You mean to tell me United Nations meets and there ain't no whispers about that shit? There's not even a, hey, you know what's going on in that? You better shut your mouth. You better not bring up no niggas and no spics and no United Nations. That's why we exist. To stop them from being a nation. But they tell you they don't know who the 12 tribes of Israel are. Bullshit. Excuse my language. And that's how you know it's not just the white man, it's everybody else. When we say that we are all we got, we literally are all that we got. Because no one else concerns themselves with the suffering and the plight of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. Because we are God's chosen people. But we are entitled to the protection and the benefit of being the Most High's people if we aren't doing what he said to do. Let's drop that. Let's come off of Psalms 83. All right. So Psalms 83 said that these nations would come together to stop us from being a nation. Let me get Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. Now, Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 14. Nope. Jeremiah. Nope. Jeremiah 17 and 4. All right. Matter of fact, let's get Jeremiah 17 and 1. We'll start at verse 1. Actually, the rest of the class might just be Jeremiah the 17th chapter. We're going to start at Jeremiah 17, 1 through 4, but I might just stay on Jeremiah 17 for the remainder of the class. All right. This is why we don't know who we are. This is why of all the nations of the earth, there's one group of people who cannot tell you anything about their history prior to 500 years ago. And it's important when we understand these Bible verses that these were prophecies given from God. And in order for prophecies to come to pass, someone on the earth has to do something. So when you think about the cruelty of Indian schools that your oppressor established, where they had slogans such as "Kill the Indian and save the man," and they beat the culture and the history and the language out of the Native Indians and made divisions between the generations of older natives from the young ones who were being raised in these Indian heritage schools. And you read about that, you watch the documentaries and you see the cruelty and you learn about the Trail of Tears and learn about the great lengths that the oppressor went to destroy these people. You say, why? What motivated them? What purpose did they have? They were fulfilling biblical prophecy. You read about the cruelty of the treatment of the slaves. You watch movies like Roots, and you read it and you see about the beating of Toby, beating of Kunta Kinte into be accepting that he was Toby. You say, how could someone be so evil? How could someone be so wicked? How could there be such a diabolical being on the earth, such as the white man who did these things? And then you understand he had to fulfill biblical prophecy. When you study the history of the white man and you study the Bible and you learn that the things that happened to us were prophesied by God to happen, then you understand that this cruelty of this white man is not natural. It's not normal. It is spiritual, his evil and his wickedness and the lengths that he's willing to go to destroy a person. I remember being young and learning about buck breaking, where they would take a big, strong, rebellious black man and they would rape him in front of the people. And you would think to yourself, what kind of a homosexual, disgusting, dirty person must you be to want to have sex with a grown man, period. Let alone to have the idea that if I have sex with him in front of his people, it will break his people.
Yeah.
And you say, what kind of sick deviant enjoys that? How could you even, as a man, even muster up the lust to want to do it? And then you read the Bible and you understand that that was something supernatural inside of the white man to rape a man in front of his people. Then you learn that this cruelty that we've experienced under this oppressor, it's from Satan himself. It is a spiritual wickedness. It is something that is out of the comprehension of mankind. A man cannot think of such cruelties. A man cannot ponder such evils. That is something that comes from another place. And the same way the cruelty and the wickedness of your oppressor comes from another place, that is where the righteousness to stand with the Lord and to come back to him has to come from as well. It's not something that is natural to the earth. It's something that comes from the Most High. Everybody understand? Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 1. The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. You hear that? The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. What does that mean? If you had a pen of iron with a diamond tip, that means anything that you write, it is getting carved and engraved into whatever you're writing it on. Mm-hmm. Meaning you cannot erase what is being written here. God is saying the sin of Judah cannot be erased. The sin of Judah is being written with a pen of iron and the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars. It is at the very core of who you are. Written, it is graven upon the table of your heart and upon the horns of your altars, meaning you sing and dance and party and write your wickedness. It's everything about your culture, who you are. Verse 2. While their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills. What is that talking about? The altars and groves were the places of worship. The places where you went to indulge in the false gods who you worshipped. You want to know what where an altar and a grove is today? The place where you go to get high. Anybody know anybody that smoke weed on the regular?
Yes.
Anyone that smokes weed on the regular, what do they have? What does every weed smoker have? They have their place where they smoke. Okay. This is how far detached we've come from knowing the knowledge of God and the knowledge of righteousness and wickedness. We don't even realize, the people who smoke weed don't realize that bong is an altar. That little bong they pull out, they sit that bong down and they get that weed and they put it on top of that thing, and if they got a bong. Man, now some of y'all might not know about a bong. Y'all just used to smoking Phillies and Dutches and whatever the hell you do. But people that smoke out of a bong, that bong is an altar. The people who roll up weed and smoke a blunt, that is that place where they sit. Okay, anybody who knows a smoker knows. You go to a smoker's house, they have their chair they sit in. They got their table where they break their weed down. They have the trash can where they dump the guts from the roll-up that they're about to use. That's their altar. Sitting in that chair, putting that dollar bill or that piece of paper down, getting that little bag of weed out, and then breaking the weed down, picking out the seeds. That little trash can is right there where they dump the seeds, and then they cut the Dutch, or they unroll the backwood and they dump the guts out. That's part of the altar. Then they got they do their whole process of getting the roll up right. They lick it and slurp it, do whatever they do. Then they get it in position, that little piece of paper that they use to dump the weed out of the paper onto the roll up. All of that is a part of their religious ceremony to worship the god of the weed that they're smoking. And if you're someone who participating, every group of weed smokers, everybody has their position. The guy who's rolling up sits right here. Then there's another guy who sits right there. Then there's another guy in the love seat. And then there's a third guy that's standing up behind the couch. Everybody has their position where they get in line. What do weed smokers call that ritual? Where they all stand in a circle and they smoke. They call it a cipher. That's the name of the that's the name of the positions that they all take. They all are part of the cipher. What are the rules of the cipher? The rules are that you always pass the weed to the right. You don't pass it to the left. What are all the rules of the cipher? If you drop it, you had too much to smoke. You drop the blunt, we got to pass you up the next time. That is a religious ceremony. That's not just happenstance. That's church, goddammit. You're worshiping a god. What is another altar? The strip club. Not different from the church. You go to the strip club, what do you got to do? First thing you got to do is you can't come in there with them big face dollars, the big face money. First, you got to go see the money changer. The strip club is a goddamn church. You go in there, you have your offerings. Do you have your offerings? Yes. Okay, I got $200. You go to the money changers. You get them $200 bills or $450s or maybe it's $10, $20 bills. And what do? They'll exchange those big faces for all $1 bills. You go and you for altar. Who's giving the sermon? It might be Candy, Crystal, or Chocolate Delight, whatever the whole name is, and she's up there and she's giving a good old sermon. She's putting on a show. She's clapping, singing. You understand? The choir is singing a hymn. What do? You get touched by the Spirit. You go and you start to throw the money. Oh wait, you praising God, throwing your money. You giving your offerings up there. Then you may get touched by the Spirit. You got to have a private counseling session with the preacher. And you wait for her to come off that stage, and she come over to you, and you got your money in your hand, and you say, "I need to confess." She take you in that little back room, and you go there with your money, and you give her that $150, and you get you some private one-on-one time with the priestess. This is what worshiping false gods was during the time of the Bible. This is what happened in those altars and those groves that the Bible is speaking about, and it's still taking place today. But we've been cut off from the knowledge of who we are. We've been cut off from the knowledge of God, that we don't realize we're doing the same dumb shit we've been doing for 1,500 years on the earth. Jeremiah 17:2. While their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills. O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all thy borders. What does that mean? What is the mountain? The mountain is the government. And we are a government. We were a mountain in a field. We were a government in the midst of other governments. And the Lord said he was going to give everything we had and all our treasures to the spoil. And all our high places for sin. Everything that we thought was great, everything we thought was beautiful, it was sin throughout all our borders. And guess what? That's what it is today. Everything we hold in high esteem, everything we hold to be great, everything we marvel at, it's turned into sin. It's all sin. It's all disgusting. It's all wicked. Verse 4, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. This is why we don't know who we are. This is why we don't know our history. This is why we don't know our culture. This is why we don't know what language we spoke, what clothes we wore, what we dressed, what were our relationships like. You want to know why there's so much dysfunctionality between black men and black women in America today? It's because we are Israelites trying to live a European culture. We are trying to fit ourselves into another people's way of life. Here's what here's the big lie. Here's the big deception is that way of life doesn't even work for Europeans. The whole idea we've been given of marriage and living in life, white people don't live like that. White women know white men, and they know either he's going to be having sex with his male buddies or he's going to go pay a prostitute or pay some other woman or sleep with his secretary at work. It is an accepted part of their life. It is an accepted practice in their culture and in their society. White women, for the most part, do not bat an eye to a cheating husband. Or white women agree with their husbands that when they get married, as soon as you go and do what I know you're going to do, I'm going to divorce you and take half. White men marry women knowing, yeah, one day that bitch going to get half, but hey, fuck it, she deserve it. She going to give me some couple kids. She going to deal with my shit for about 8-9 years. She deserves to get half. It's a part of their culture. You know what black people don't understand? White people culture. You goofy, you get married thinking what? We gonna live happily ever after? This bitch ain't gonna ruin my life and take half. This bitch ain't gonna be like a white. You're a clown, my nigga. You chase some bitch around and beg her, give her flowers and candies and chocolates on February 14th, thinking that that's gonna keep her, and that means that your relationship is secure, not knowing that she was a hoe from the beginning. You didn't know she was getting gang banged in college. You thought that she pledged AKA. You thought that meant that she was a high class fancy woman. You didn't know that pledging AKA meant that she got trains ran on her by the Zoes and the what's them purple niggas with the purple and gold. The Qs and the Zoes and the red niggas with the red candy canes. You ain't know the Kappas and the Qs ran trains on that bitch for her to come through her time as an AKA. You thought you had something special. You a clown, my nigga. You went and got a bitch that pledged Greek and you never pledged Greek. You don't even know what that culture's all about. You thought you had you a trophy, not knowing that whole Q Zoe Kappa AKA shit is about orgies and brothels and fucking prostitution, all in the name of being Greek. Those are also altars and groves. You think you niggas in 2023, you pledging in some fraternity, you gonna let some nigga brand you with an Omega symbol. You think you doing some new modern age shit. Don't you know that's what we reading about in the Bible? That's worshiping false gods. You're gonna brand yourself with an image of a goddamn heathen. You don't know nothing. You have no idea, no conceptualization of the life that you're living and the culture you're engulfed in and the things that you are doing. Why? Because you have been separated, cut off from your God, from your culture, from your heritage, and you were lost. And all these things have come to pass because of our refusal to obey our Father and to do what He said to do. Even now, these classes are being taught every day. Brothers is on the street all across the country every weekend. And how many of our people are still lost and still don't know, still don't have any idea of what they're doing? Here's the harsh reality of it. It's the same way that we on the streets teaching today. We've been on the streets teaching always. There's never been a time in the history of the earth where the Lord didn't have men of God speaking the truth. So while this is a 2023 thing, we might think like, yeah, man, this is new. We got a chance to change the world and teach the truth. There's been a chance to change the world with the truth in every generation. And niggas did not want to hear it. You go back, I mean, I remember being a young boy and reading and learning about the Black Power movements during the 60s. My grandfather was a very proud to be black man. You understand? And I remember reading his book and just having conversations with him about what it was like in the time when black people loved black people and loved being black. And I thought of how amazing of a time that might have been. And it wasn't until, after coming to the truth that I went back and I did the math. And it was like, you mean to tell me the same time we was, black power and black is beautiful and black is great, the same time the Muslims was out there moving around and Farrakhan was rising. You mean the ISUPK been teaching since then? You mean to tell me in the 1990s there was thousands of niggas all across the country in Israelite garments teaching on the streets, and nobody heard this message? Nobody heard this word? Hold on. You mean to tell me Wu-Tang Clan was at the Passover in 94? How come I ain't never heard nothing about it in none of their songs? You mean to tell me that these, famous rappers, famous singers, boxers, and athletes and entertainers, you mean to tell me niggas knew about the truth? And I didn't find out about it until 2010? Why? Because the earth has always turned a blind ear to the truth of God. I know you coming to the truth. All of us coming to the truth, and it's an amazing thing, and it's a beautiful thing. And we know amongst us, man, we some hardcore real niggas, man. We keep it real. We serve God, and we don't take no shit from nobody. And we stand strong, and we live righteously. And yeah, we have more than one wife, and we go work our little 9-to-5 jobs, and we deal with the world, but we stand on what the Most High teaches. And amongst ourselves, man, we honorable and dignified, and we mighty men. But to the world, we a bunch of crazy niggas, man. Them niggas is strange. Them niggas is weird. And we looking at them like, nigga, you got on Mario Kart shoes, my nigga, with a fucking dress on. We weird, nigga, we strange? No, nigga, you strange. But the reality is we weird, man. Always have been weird. Always have been strange to the world. Always will be. I wonder what I would have thought about Israelite niggas if I seen them in 96, 98. I'm 12 years old downtown. I see some Israelite niggas on the corner. I'm like, man, who these crazy niggas in these ninja suits? Dressed up like they finna go do some karate. Not knowing, not realizing that we were taught to look at ourselves that way. We were taught to see men of God and priests that way because of the deception and lies of our oppressor, man. Our duty and our job is to do what the Lord said to do, and the rest of it, we got to let the Lord worry about it. But the reality is the truth has never been the thing that the world could accept. And it's never going to be the thing the world will accept until the world doesn't have a choice. And that time is only going to come when we have done the work that is worthy of bringing our King back. Let me drop that. Let's drop that. Let me get Romans chapter 13. It's Romans chapter 13, verse 11. Romans chapter 13, verse 11 says, and that, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believe, meaning we a lot closer than what we initially thought. And all of the activity and all the things daily taking place on the earth is the evidence that we are closer than when we might have thought. There was a time when I thought that, man, we might not see the kingdom in my lifetime. So much that needs to happen and so much that has to take place before Christ arrived. I might not be here to see it. But with the way things are ramping up, man, hell, he could be here next week. He could be here tomorrow. So what does that mean? There is no time for hesitating. There is no time for making mistakes. There is no time for weakness. There is no time for, man, I'll get it together next week. Now is the time that we have to awake out of sleep. Verse 12, the night is far spent. The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. But put ye on the Adawan, Yahushua Mashiach, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Everybody understand? We are now living in the time where we have got to wake up to the truth. We are living in the time where we have got to acknowledge that there's really only one choice in life, and that's to choose to serve God and live, or to choose to disobey him and die. And that is the choice that all mankind has been faced with for many, many generations. And there have only been very few, too few, who have chosen in their time to serve the Most High and live. But that is the choice that we are being given now. We are being given that choice armed with the information and the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding necessary to know why there really is only one choice. And that is what the Bible teaches us concerning our history. One more scripture to close out the class. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 30. I want to say verse 15. All right. It's Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 15. It says, "See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. In that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land whither thou go to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passest over Jordan to go to possess it. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love the Most High thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him. For he is thy life and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them." Everybody understands? This was the word that Moses spoke to us, and this is the word that still applies to us today. One more thing on the Bible is black history, right? When you come into the truth and you learn that everyone who is here on the earth today has been here before, and you learn that all of us have been given the opportunity to serve the Lord across several lifetimes. When you think about your life and you think about the things you've suffered and you think about the things that you've endured and you think about the things that you've been through before you learn the truth, you may say to yourself, well, that's not fair. Why would God have me to suffer those things? Why would God have me to go through these things? I never did anything wrong. But then you learn that the Most High is not the God of the dead, but he is the God of the living. It gives a whole new meaning to the words that we read that were spoken to the children of Israel by Moses thousands of years ago. Because for me, you have to reason that I suffered all the things that I suffered in my life because I was there when Moses spoke these words to the people. Like, there's no escaping God's judgment. There is no such thing as you're an innocent bystander in the war in the Lord's battle for us to serve him. When you think about, I remember thinking about slavery, like, man, God is cruel for them people to have to go through what they went through during the time of slavery. They weren't there when these words were spoken. Why would God punish people for something that their ancestors did? Coming to the truth, you realize because they were their ancestors. Those people who stood before Moses in the wilderness when he spoke these words, may have died thinking to themselves, was at least I ain't suffer what Moses said, just for thousands of years later to see them ships on them coasts and to see them Africans coming with them chains and then have to accept that God wasn't bullshitting. He may not have gotten you then in that life, but he did get you in this one. And it isn't like you were living righteous in this one. So what are you going to do? Complain? That's the one piece of history that we miss is that we knew why. Slavery wasn't just some random occurrence in history. It wasn't something that happened and nobody understood. Nobody had no knowledge of what was going on. You think when the Spanish conquistadors came to this land, there weren't some men of the Lord here saying, deny these white people, kill these white people, don't join with these white people? I'm sure there were. But what did the majority say? Man, these white people is coming on clouds in the ocean. They got mountains in the middle of the sea. Surely we can learn from them. We can gain from them. Then when they all died and were murdered and were dying of smallpox, you think there wasn't some man of God saying, see, this is what we get for disobeying the Most High. Now we're going to lose everything. The buffalo are dying. The rain isn't falling. There is no deliverance because we refuse to obey God. It surely was said. It surely was spoken and it surely was written. But what did your oppressor do? He burned all the records. He took all the children and got them away from those men of God, got them away from those medicine men and those the rain dancers, and stripped them of their culture and their heritage and their connection to the Most High. Just so that in 2023, when the Lord brought the prophets back, he would see who would stand up and take charge and rejoin themselves back to him. That is what real black history is. And that history is in the Bible. And with that, we're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out of 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York. Since 1969, we've been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. In the year 2023, there is nothing more important than for God's chosen people to find out the truth of who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is here on the earth. The Bible is where we learn the truth, is where we can discover the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that the Most High has placed therein for us to be able to come back to being the people that he called us to be. And with that, we got classes here in Memphis every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. The address to the school is 3000 Walnut Grove Road, Suite 215. 3000 Walnut Grove Road, Suite 215. The call-in number is 901-249-0085. 901-249-0085. With that, see y'all tomorrow. Israel Shalom.